Divine Grace, Dasi, Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parvakacharya Astotara Divine Grace Bhakti Santa Sarasvati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Shalahar Dastako Ki Jai Brahmsiko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. All glory to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glory to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glory to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Garanga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, it's fine. We've got a very intimate Bhagavatam class this morning in the chilly morning of Vivashan will keep us awake. Okay, reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Chapter entitled An Unknown Friend. It was inevitable that Abai would think of engaging Mahatma Gandhi in devotional service. Because of his lifetime of courageous, ascetic, and moral activities on behalf of his countrymen, Mahatma Gandhi had great power to influence the Indian masses. As with Mahendra Prapt of the World Federation, Mahatma Gandhi's idea of serving God was to try to bring happiness to man through politics and through his own invented methods. As one Englishman had said of Mahatma Gandhi, either he is a saint among the politicians or a politician among the saints. But be as it may, he was not yet fully engaged in pure devotional service, and as his activities were not those of a Mahatma as described in Bhagavad Gita, the Gita defines a Mahatma as one who is fully engaged in the worship of Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always chanting his glories. That Mahatma encourages others to surrender to Krishna. But because as a young man, Abai had been a follower of Gandhi's, Abai had a special feeling for him. Of course, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had later convinced him to engage exclusively in devotional service, but now Abai felt his old friendship for Gandhi, even though Gandhi was a towering figure of worldwide fame, and Abai unknown to both Gandhi and the world. On December 7th, 1947, Abai wrote to Gandhi from Kanpur. Gandhi was living at their Bira mansion in Delhi, where large military forces throughout the city discouraged Hindu-Muslim rioting. Gandhi's secretary, Naya, described Gandhi at the time as the saddest man one could picture. The men he had led into struggle for Indian independence and others had taken the leadership of the nation, and Gandhi, with his doctrines of nonviolence, unity, and aggressivism, was now at odds with them in so many ways. He feared he was becoming a naturalism. His former colleagues admired him but rejected his teachings. All of his programs, Hindu-Muslim unity, nonviolence, the upliftment of the poor, although praised throughout the world, were failures in India of 1947. On a recent visit to a Muslim refugee camp, a crowd of Muslims who surrounded his car had cursed him, and at a public prayer meeting in a Hindu crowd had shouted him down and ended his meeting where he had attempted to read from the Quran. At 78 years, Gandhi was physically weak and melancholy. In all likelihood, Abai's letter would never reach him. Abai knew it. Sending a letter to Gandhi would be like putting a note on a bottle and sending it to the sea. It would arrive in a flood of mail and Gandhi would be too busy to see it, but Abai sent it nonetheless. My dear friend Mahatmaji, please accept my respectful namaskar. I am an unknown friend, but I had to write to you at times, and again, although you never have cared to reply, I sent you papers of my Back to Godhead, but your secretaries told me that you have very little time to read letters and much less time for reading magazines. I asked for an interview with you, but your busy secretaries never cared to reply to this either. Anyways, I am a very old friend. Although unknown to you, I am writing to you in order to bring you to the rightful position that you deserve. As a sincere friend, I must not deviate from my duty towards a friend like your good self. I tell you, as a sincere friend, that you must immediately retire from active politics if you do not want to die an inglorious death. You have 125 years to live. Sorry, you have... I skipped a line there. You have 125 years to live as you have desired to live, but if you die an inglorious death, it is of no worth. The honor and prestige that you have obtained during this course of your present lifetime, you are not possible to be obtained by anyone else within living memory. But you must know that all these honors and prestiges were false, inasmuch as they were created by the illusory energy of Godhead, called Maya. By this falsity, I do not mean to say that your so many friends were false to you, nor you were false to them. But this falsity, I mean, illusion, or in other words, the false friendship and honors obtained hereby were creations of Maya, and therefore they were always temporary or false, as you may call it. But none of you, neither you nor your friends nor yourself, know this truth. A sadhu is not supposed to flatter, but to cut. This is the basis of his friendship, that he cuts away the illusion of the materialistic person. Mahatma Gandhi, forsaken by his friends, bitterly disappointed at the outcome of his long, hard struggle for Indian independence, and apprehensive about the future, had been reduced to a position in which he might be able to realize that his friends and work were ultimately illusory. Thus, this was the perfect time for him to comprehend Abhai's message. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 20, entitled Lord Vishnu's Appearance at the Sacrificial Arena, Text 32. Maitreya Uvacha Ityadi Rajena Nukta Savishvadrik Tam Ahara Janmai Bhakti Astute Distye Drishi Tirmaite Kritaya Maya Madhyam Tarati Smradrusyaicham Maitreya Uvacha Ityadi Rajena Nukta Savishvadrik Tam Ahara Janmai Bhakti Astute Distye Drishi Tirmaite Kritaya Mayam Madhyam Tatrati Smradushtyajam Maitreya Uvacha Ityadi Rajena Nuta Savishvadrik Tam Ahara Janmai Bhakti Astute Distye Drishi Dirmaite Kritaya Mayam Madhyam Tarati Smradushtyacham Tamahara Janmai Bhakti Astute Dishyati Dirmaite Kritaya Mayam Madhyam Taristi Sudatushayam Maitreya Uvacha Tam ahara janmai bhakti astute. Maya Maidam Tarati Sadushya. Maitreya, the great sage. Uvacha spoke. Iti, thus. Adirajena, by the original King Prithu. Nuta, being worshipped. Sa, he, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishvadrik, the seer of the whole universe. Tam, unto him. Aha, said, Rajan, my dear king. Mai, unto me. Bhaktir, devotional service. Astu, let it be. Te, sorry, I think probably te. Your, distya, by good fortune. Idrishi, like this. Tihi, intelligence. Mai, unto me. Te, by you. Krita, having been performed. Yaya, by which. Mayam, illusory energy. Madhyam, my. Tarati, crosses over. Sma, certainly. Dustyajam, very difficult to give up. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. The great sage Maitreya continued by saying that the Lord, the seeker of the universe, after hearing Prithu Maharaj's prayer, addressed the king. My dear king, may you always be blessed by engaging in my devotional service. Only by such purity of purpose as you yourself very intelligently express can one cross over the insurmountable illusory energy of Maya. Purport. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, when the Lord also claims that the illusory energy is insurmountable. No one can transcend the illusory energy of Maya by fruitive activity, speculative philosophy, or mystic yoga. The only means for transcending the illusory energy is devotional service, as the Lord himself states, Mam evaya prapadyante mayamitam tarantite, Bhagavad Gita 7:14. If one wants to cross over the ocean of material existence, there is no alternative than to take to devotional service. A devotee, therefore, should not care for any material position, whether in hell or in heaven. A pure devotee should always engage in the service of the Lord, for that is his real occupation. Simply by sticking to that position, one can overcome the stringent laws of material nature. Om Gyanantam Brandasya Garanjala Shalakaya Chakshu Ummalitam Mena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master has opened my eyes with torchlight of knowledge. Offer my respect for the best is sometimes lotus feet. So when I first read this, sometimes you read a Bhagavatam verse and it's like very obscure and you're trying to work out, what am I going to say about it? You know, it's very short. But this verse I was bewildered because there's so much to say about devotional service. You know, the whole of the Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Srimad Bhagavatam, Manashiksha, all of Prabhupada's books are just so crammed full of devotional service, and also crammed full of Srila Prabhupada talking about the illusory energy as well, and our relationship to that illusory energy. So in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada goes to great lengths to explain that actually we are part and parcel of Krishna. We're pure, uncontaminated, Satchidananda. But when we come in contact with the material modes of nature, then we become covered our vision is obscured by contact with the material energy. And this is when the material energy becomes insurmountable, because we're locked into this false ego of thinking that I'm this body, and we're just controlled. It took me, I still haven't fully understood it at all. But in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks about how we're just controlled by the modes of nature, how we're not independent. And, because we think, well, I choose to do this, I choose to do that. But actually it's the modes of nature are working on us in so many different ways. There's that picture in the Bhagavad Gita where there's a person and they're like a puppet. They're being pulled by the three modes. And this is what it's like. But we have this feeling of independence, because we came here for that independence from Krishna, to want to be the enjoyers and the controller. But unfortunately we get covered by the material energy. When the pure soul gets in contact with the material nature. So that's one of the biggest clues for us. What are our senses being in contact with? Are our senses in contact with the material energy, or are we consciously engaging our senses, our mind, our intelligence, our physical attributes in Krishna's energy? So engaging the senses in the material modes, or in Krishna's energy. And I notice myself when, this world is always a struggle. We're always struggling. It's not a passive place. And, when I let my standards drop in certain areas, I often don't notice that my standards are dropping. And it's only when I come back to, like, for example, if I've let my reading drop or something like that. And then you kind of come up with so many excuses. Well, I've been busy with this and all these excuses. And then when I kind of get back to reading again and getting that standard of reading up, then I can see how during that time I was covered, but I didn't realize it. When you're reading Srila Prabhupada's books, then you get clarity and energized and enlivened in devotional service. So similarly, anything that we might be having struggles with in devotional life, often it's not till we kind of come out the other side of it that we can realize that we were actually covered during that time, which is kind of the tricky thing, because when you're in that situation, it's very difficult to see clearly. And it is scary how we can get covered so easily. But as it was saying here, there's this process of devotional service, and Srila Prabhupada has given it in so many different ways that we can engage in devotional service. And in the preface to Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada is talking about the taste that we get from devotional service. He talks about how whatever we do in life, we're trying to get a taste. And it's a taste that people get when they're performing altruistic activities for their country. And what impels a man to go to work hard for his family is the taste that he gets from that family relationship and from serving them in that way. But he says that in materialistic life and materialistic activities, there's always bhoga tyag, acceptance and rejection. So somebody will work hard for a while and then they'll give it up and go to something else, and then always chopping and changing because that taste can't maintain. But when we come to devotional service, that taste is something very different. So in materialistic life, we're going from one thing to another. And I can remember that, backpacking around the world, trying to experience something different, but never being able to, just be happy, stay in one place, think, I found the satisfaction that I'm looking for. It was always on to the next thing, or just thinking, actually, this is dry. And never being able to be satisfied. But then when there's a taste of devotional service, it's something quite different, something that we can't forget. And even if we try and forget it and cover it over, there's always that inkling in the background. Yeah, when I first met the devotees, I kind of came and went for a year or so. So I'd be with the devotees. I wouldn't be able to handle it, and then I'd kind of go away again. But once I'd been with the devotees, there was always something missing, even though at that time it was hard to be with the devotees because of things I was going through. It was harder to be away from them because there was that taste that I'd had that I couldn't forget. And I could see that the process of devotional service had helped me to do things in my life that I'd tried to do so many times before, but I couldn't, like be a vegetarian, for example. Like I thought, like even when I was really young, I said to my mum, I want to be a vegetarian. And she was like, you can't, it's not healthy, you have to eat meat and stuff. And so I was like, oh. So when I was older at university, I was like, right, now I can be a vegetarian. And I lasted like a week or so. I tried it a few times. But then when I met the devotees and, I was given prasad, and after that, I never went back to eating meat again. And it's definitely not something that I've missed, because there's something that it's been replaced by a higher taste. So there's a definite taste that we can't experience outside of devotional service. And devotional service is very inclusive as well. In the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives so many options. He's like, just always think of me, be my pure devotee. But if you can't do this, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, and in this way obtain a desire to obtain me. And if you can't do that, then what's it next? Work for me? Yeah, work for me. And if you can't do this, then offer the results of your work in charity. So even if we're in a situation where we can't openly perform devotional service, then there's so many different options that Krishna gives us. So this devotional service is for everybody. And actually in that chapter as well, Krishna says that one who is, determined in this devotional service, then I'll pick them up from the ocean of birth and death. It says that Krishna will come along riding on the back of Garuda and just pluck us out. So sometimes that's all we've got to cling on to. Hey, it's like just cling to devotional service, and one day Krishna might come and pick me up, because sometimes, you feel like I'm just drowning in this ocean. And my only hope is just to, at some point in the Bhagavatam, maybe in the 10th canto somewhere, it's described that this is like an inheritance, that we have this inheritance, and all we have to do is stay alive, and then we'll get the inheritance. So all we have to do is stay alive in devotional service, no matter how tough it is, and we'll get this inheritance. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's described that this devotional service as well is something very natural to us. So Krishna Sadhu, Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sadhu Kavanaya Shravanadishwari Chitte Karya Udaya. So this the living entity is pure by nature, and by performing this devotional service, it becomes uncovered. So it's not an artificial thing. And that's sometimes what people feel as well. Like when they come into the temple for the first time, they just feel at home. Or even people come to the loft, it's quite a it's a very simple building upstairs in a very, very simple part of Auckland CBD. And people, when they come through the door, I can remember coming through the door and smelling the incense. And just because the incense has been offered to Krishna, and people think, they come up the stairs, and I can remember it myself, just this feeling of coming home, and they walk into the loft, and it's like, wow. But from a materialistic point of view, it's nothing that special. But because there's devotional service, because there's things offered to Krishna, then there's a potency, and people can feel it. So this process is very simple. And like I said, in so many places, Prabhupada's talking about this simple process of devotional service. And in the Nature of Devotion, it's described there's 5 very potent forms of devotional service. And it's always, I always find it encouraging because all of those parts are what we do in the morning program as well. So we're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're doing now, associating with devotees, which is what we're doing now, chanting Hare Krishna, that's what we were just doing, worshipping the deity. We have Sri Sri Radha Giridhari here, and residing in the holy dham. So wherever Krishna is being worshipped is considered a holy dham. So we're so fortunate to be able to perform this devotional service. And yeah, it's something very simple, but sometimes we make it complicated because of our conditioning and the obstacles in our life that we have to overcome. It is interesting here how it said here, may you be blessed by engaging in devotional service. So this is actually the blessing, to be able to perform devotional service. And anyone can perform devotional service, anyone can chant Hare Krishna. But to go the distance, it's favourable to us to have the blessings of the devotee. And here we're having the blessings of Krishna to perform the devotional service. So this, we hear that offending devotees, like the mad elephant offences, this is what's going to really hamper our spiritual lives. But on the reverse side of that, the blessings of the devotees, that will really help us in our spiritual life. So I've been reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita recently, and yeah, there's an amazing, actually the Chaitanya Charitamrita is full of devotee association, devotees engaging others in devotional service. Sadhu Sangha is a really beautiful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. But recently I've been thinking about the pastime of Karl Krishna Das, and how he lost his service, and he felt like he lost the blessings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But through the devotees' mercy, he got service back, and he got the blessings of the devotees back again. So Lord Chaitanya, he had taken sannyas, and he was in Jagannath Puri. He liberated Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he decided he wanted to go on tour to South India. So he said to his devotees, it's very painful for me to leave you, but I want to go on tour in South India. I want to go and search for my brother Vishvarup. Of course, Lord Chaitanya knew that Vishvarup wasn't in this world anymore, but he wanted to preach to the people in South India. So on an excuse of looking for his brother, he wanted to preach in South India. And Lord Nityananda said to him, well, we don't want you to go on your own, because if you're holding your water pot and you're on danda and you're trying to chant and count your beads, it's going to be very difficult for you. 3 or 4 of us should go with you. I know South India very well. I'll come with you. And Lord Chaitanya said, well, I love you guys very much, but actually you quite disturb me sometimes. He said, I tried to go to Vrindavan, and you tricked me and you took me to Advaita Acharya's house. And then when I was trying to go to Jagannath Puri, you broke my danda. And he said, all of you devotees, I love you so much, but your love for me also impedes me as well. He said, I can't take Jagadananda Pandit. He becomes so angry at me that if I offend him in the smallest way by, not wanting to smear my body with scented oil, then he fasts and doesn't talk to me for 3 days. How can I travel with someone like that? And Damodar, he keeps a stick in his hand. Like, he's just a brahmachari, I'm a sannyasi, but he's always correcting me and telling me what to do. How can I go with him? And Mukunda, he wants to keep me in sense gratification. Like, he can't bear it when I do these austerities, but I'm a sannyasi, I have to do austerities. But Mukunda, he doesn't say anything, but I can tell he gets so sad when he sees me taking cold baths and sleeping in austere conditions, that his sadness makes me doubly as sad. So I'm sorry, I want to go on my own. And then Lord Nityananda said, well, yeah, we really don't want you to go on your own. Take this brahmachari, Karl Krishna Das. He's very simple, so brahmana. He's very simple, humble. Take him with you, he can serve you. So, they did a tour of South India, chanting Hare Krishna, and liberated so many people on the way. Karl Krishna Das served Lord Chaitanya for a long time in this service. But then they came to a place and there were some people there called the Bhattaharis. And they used to use women to entice people into their group. And so Karl Krishna Das, he was described as very simple and innocent, pure. But because of their association, his intelligence became polluted. And in the service of Lord Chaitanya, he sneaked off in the middle of the night and he went to these Bhattaharis, and Lord Chaitanya, so he got up, he knew what was happening and he went there to get him back. And he said, what are you doing stealing my servant? This isn't all right. And then the Bhattaharis became very angry and they ran at Lord Chaitanya with their weapons. And Lord Chaitanya just stood there and suddenly they were running at Lord Chaitanya with the weapons, but then the weapons started to cut their own bodies. And so when 3 or 4 people were getting chopped up by their own weapons, the other people were like, wow, I'm getting out of here. This is crazy. So they all ran away. And Lord Chaitanya, he grabbed Karl Krishna Das by the hair and dragged him back. So they carried on their travel of South India and then they went back to Jagannath Puri. And in Jagannath Puri, everyone was very happy to see Lord Chaitanya. People would come offer their respects. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came. And then Karl Krishna Das was in the room, but Lord Chaitanya wouldn't even look at him. I don't know if you've ever been chastised by a spiritual master, and it's very heavy. And it feels even heavier when there's someone else in the room to see that chastisement, because, if it's just you and your spiritual master, for example, then it goes straight to the heart, their words. But if there's someone else there as well, then it's doubly humbling. And so Lord Chaitanya looked at Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and said, I took this person with me. He's caused me so much trouble. We've come back to Jagannath Puri. Just let him do whatever he wants. He's not in my service anymore. He's independent. I'm just letting him go. He can go wherever he wants. And Karl Krishna Das started crying. And Lord Chaitanya just got up and left. And so he was completely devastated. He'd lost his service. He'd lost his association with Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this purport, Prabhupada exclaims how the material energy is so bewildering and so harsh that even in the personal association of Krishna, we can fall into Maya. So we shouldn't be surprised that sometimes we get into trouble, because even a pure simple Brahmana in the association of Lord Chaitanya can get into trouble. So this material energy, like it said in the purport here, it can seem insurmountable. So Karl Krishna Das was completely devastated, but the devotees, they hatched a plan. They hatched a plan to keep him in devotional service, because that's what is going to help us. So Lord Nityananda and the other devotees, they said, how can we keep Karl Krishna Das in devotee, in service of the devotees? So they decided, Lord Chaitanya, he's come to Jagannath Puri, but actually the devotees in Navadvip don't know that he's here yet. So we should send him as a messenger to Sachimata, Advaita Acharya, all the devotees there. So they went to Lord Chaitanya and said, can we send someone to do this service? And Lord Chaitanya was, he didn't stop that. And so Karl Krishna Das, he was loaded up with Jagannath Prasadam. And he went and he saw Mother Sachi Devi. He offered respectful obeisances, gave the Prasadam, and informed the news that Lord Chaitanya had come to Jagannath Puri. And then he went to Advaita Acharya's house, and Advaita Acharya, he was so happy he started making grunting noises. And so one by one, Karl Krishna Das would go and he would have the association of other devotees. He would give them prasadam. He would make them really happy by telling them that Lord Chaitanya had come and they could go to Jagannath Puri to meet him. So Karl Krishna Das was giving this good news and getting the heartfelt appreciation from the devotees that he was visiting. So he was being engaged in devotional service. And I heard a lecture by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. It was interesting. He was saying how Krishna Das, he'd lost his service, but he was given another service. So if we make a mistake in devotional service, in some ways it's inconsequential in the greater scheme of things, because we're always eternal servants of Krishna. But sometimes in the social aspect, it is consequential. So if we make a mistake, we may not be able to go back to our original service that we have, especially if it's one of responsibility. We can't just brush things aside and pretend things never happened. But we can always engage in devotional service. We can always chant Hare Krishna. But it might not be in the exact position as it was before. So even though Krishna Das had lost his personal service to Lord Chaitanya, he was still engaged in devotional service. And I was thinking how, specifically because Krishna Das had made a mistake. It wasn't a premeditated thing, offensive to devotees. It wasn't like something he'd done enviously in the heart. He was remorseful of his mistake, and it was an accidental fall down. So the devotees, they showed him this mercy of trying to engage him in devotional service. So we all have ups and downs and troubles in our more troubled times and easier times in our spiritual life, but we can always engage in devotional service. And this is what the devotees do as well. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can see how the devotees are always sharing devotional service. And when we have devotee association, then we also get service as well. They kind of often go hand in hand. A devotee will phone you up, and like the other day I was really tired after work, and some devotee said, "Oh, let's have kirtan." And in my head I was like, actually I just want to veg out at home. And I was like, no, I should go to kirtan. So we went, and I felt really enlivened afterwards. And if I'd have been at home just like vegging out, I would have just felt afterwards. But actually the thing that I was supposed to do was go and hear the holy name, have devotee association, and become enlivened. So when we associate with devotees, then we get this service. And there's so many examples, not only in the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, but modern examples. Bhava lent me a book about Hladini Mataji. Very amazing devotee who spent a lot of time in New Vrindavan. And she was so absorbed in devotional service that she had like this overflow. She was so enthusiastic that other people would catch on to that enthusiasm, especially in her deity service. She was known as one who has love for Jagannath. And just whatever she did had so much bhakti. There was a very cute story in there. There was this, the devotees there were kind of having like competitions to see who could make the best burfi. And whoever made the best burfi, that burfi would be then taken to Srila Prabhupada. So there's lots of different devotees were having competitions. It was it would kind of go from one devotee to another who would be the best burfi. And this, they would have their special pots, and they'd have the special milk and the special spoon and the special techniques, and they'd spend so much time trying to make the best burfi. And there was this brahmachari that he'd had the best burfi for a long time, so that was always taken to Srila Prabhupada. But then Hladini, she started to make burfi for Lord Jagannath. And as soon as she started to make burfi for Lord Jagannath, this brahmachari didn't win the competition anymore. And to tell the truth, Hladini didn't even know there was a competition going on. She was just making burfi for Jagannath. And because it had been such a heated competition between the other devotees, this brahmachari sent some spies to where Hladini was serving Lord Jagannath to find out how does she make her special burfi, what's the clue. And she was very simple and just so fully engaged in devotional service. When they went there, they said, "Oh, how do you make a burfi?" And she said, "Oh, come tomorrow morning, you can watch if you want to," kind of thing. And so she would just wake up, get a big pot, stick it on the wood fire. She'd get up at 2 in the morning or something, chop the wood, make some water, have a super quick shower, and just quickly put a pot on, full heat, pour some milk in, and then just go, dress Lord Jagannath, bathe Lord Jagannath, dress Lord Jagannath, come back and quickly give it a stir. And, she pretty much only stirred it once. And so there would be some things stuck on the bottom of the pot, and she would just scoop it in, chuck in some sugar, scoop it. And she called it the natural crunchy health bar bits or something like that. And so she was so simple that these devotees came and she just showed them. And then when it came to the bit about scraping the burfi off the bottom, she was like quite embarrassed. She was like, oh. But her main point was that she was so engaged, so fully engaged in devotional service from the heart. She had such love for the deities, for Krishna in that deity form, that whatever she did, everyone could taste her bhakti. So even though everyone else had their very special methods to make the burfi, her special method was just being fully engaged in devotional service and having love for Lord Jagannath. So when we hear these stories of devotees, it's very, inspiring. So we have to keep in that devotee association, keep hearing about devotees, keep associating with devotees, and that will give us devotional service. And also, engage others in devotional service as well. So if there's devotees that have lost their service or having difficulty in their service, it might not be that we just quickly just try and jam them on every space in the roster, like, here you go, here's some service, let's get you out of Maya. You have to be very sensitive, engaging in people in devotional service, and it might take some time. And some healing for people to keep engaging in devotional service. But as devotees, it's our greatest wealth and it's our treasure. And as it said here, the blessings. So my dear King, may you always be blessed by engaging in devotional service. Only by such purity of purpose as you very intelligently express can one cross over the insurmountable illusory energy of Maya. So this devotional service is the blessing itself. And having the blessings of the devotees helps us in this devotional service. So we just have to keep in the association of devotees and keep engaging in devotional service. If anyone has any questions or comments, corrections?
Say that how important it is that we see the Shastra examples of devotion. Also, that's so important for us to see in association with devotees that we need to search for our qualities in devotees so that we become more this life. We need to look for the good qualities of devotees. This is actually another meditate on those qualities and serve have that in the center of
because if we look for faults, it doesn't bring any, it just brings misery to everyone really. But if we're looking for the good qualities, we get inspired by those good qualities, and also empowers the whole society really. It empowers the people that we're looking at those qualities in. It empowers us to want that as well. And makes an amazing atmosphere. I remember when Urmila was here, just having her association and listening to her lectures, she really sees Krishna as a person and as a friend, and just having her association and seeing her see Krishna as her dearmost friend inspires me to think, to have what she has. And yeah, not in an envious kind of way, I want what you have, but in an inspiring way. Yeah, to see what we can achieve, what our next step can be. And yeah, if we serve those with those qualities, then we get those qualities as well. Thank you. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.